Hello, this is Idodmg and welcome back to the channel. In this Path of Exile 2 video, I want to talk to you about the two Ascendancy classes for the Sorceress. Grinding Gear Games just released all the information for all the different Ascendancies that will be available at the start of early access. We'll have access to 12 different Ascendancies, and I'm still trying to figure out which Ascendancy I'm going to play at the very start. So I've allowed myself to go in here and look at their reveal on their forums here we're going to be talking about in the video. I'm really trying to go in blind. I'm trying to avoid all the information, but I kind of want to have an idea of which Ascendancy I even want to play at the start. So let's go ahead and talk about the Sorceress here. The Sorceress at the start of early access is going to have two different Ascendancy choices here. And remember, in order to ascend your class, like you start out as the base Sorceress, and then you can become a Stormweaver or a Chronomancer. I believe you unlock the Ascendancies through Trials, which is an endgame mechanic. Hopefully we'll have some videos out for all that as we get into early access and get our hands on the game. But for now, let's go ahead and look at the Stormweaver. So they set it up really kind of nicely. They showed the tree here. I wish it was kind of like I could mouse over the nodes and see them, but they numbered the nodes here so you can kind of see what they are. So you can kind of see how many points you would need to get certain ones. If you wanted to plan all that in Theorycraft, that you could, but we're going to just kind of look at the nodes here and kind of share my thoughts on them. So the very first one we have here, the very first one is Scouring Winds. Exposure you inflict lowers the affected resistance by an additional 20%. So what this sounds like is basically it's literally you're lowering their resistance, then this is going to increase that amount. So this will be really nice. So if you're doing a specific elemental build with one certain element type, you could shred more of that, or I guess expose more of that element so you can deal more damage. And it's going to be interesting to me, I think, for the Stormweaver, if we're going to be wanting to do all three different elements, or if we're going to really just want to hone in on one. And remember, this is just the Ascendancy skill tree, so it's all going to really change once we figure out what skills we have. And like for me, when I play, I like to find a skill that's fun, and then I'll build around it. So if there's one, let's say a fire ability that's really fun, then we'll hone in on that fire. So some of these wouldn't, like we have chill down here and stuff and shock. But anyway, we're getting a little bit off topic here. So next up we have Tempest Caller. This will grant you an elemental storm, and you trigger the elemental storm whenever you crit with spells. Now they showcased this, and I actually showed it off in my top 5 Ascendancy video. If you haven't checked that out, make sure you do after this video. I was wondering if there's like an internal cooldown on elemental storms, or if you can literally just every time you crit, you're summoning a storm, which would be absolutely wild. You'd have so many storms out. So it does look like there is a form of an internal cooldown here. I didn't see it anywhere like how much the cooldown is, but I did see you can get Elemental Storm has 150% more cooldown recovery rate. So there is a cooldown of some sort, and you can lower that cooldown here with Rain Dancer. What Elemental Storm is, it is a stationary elemental storm, so fire, cold, or lightning, that is at that location where you crit, and it'll stay out for a certain amount of time. Now, the type of storm is decided based off the highest damage element that you dealt, basically when you trigger the storm. So if you're running like multiple elements, whichever one does the most damage is going to be that type of storm, which makes sense. And then if you do a hit that is not elemental, it will not trigger the storm. And remember, it's not just a hit. It does indeed have to be a critical hit in order to trigger the elemental storm effect. Next up, we have Heavy Snows. Targets can be affected by 2 of your chills at the same time. These chills can reduce action speed up to a maximum of 35%. So this could help out a little bit with survivability if we're thinking of it that way. But you're going to do 25% less magnitude of chill that you inflict. So basically you're getting more stacks on the enemy, but they're doing a little bit less magnitude, which I'm assuming is how much movement and action speed you're lowering it by. So this one, I historically don't really do a lot of like cold builds, but like I said, I could see this being useful for a little bit of defensives. But I noticed something here. So I was looking at the Heavy Snows, and then I looked at Strike twice. You have Heavy Snows where you can do more stacks of chill, but they do a little bit less. They're a little bit less effective. Now down here with this one's with Shock, you can inflict 2 shocks at the same time, but the shocks don't last as long. So you're getting more, but their effect is a little bit lowered. I think that's fair. I know he skipped over one here, Shaper of Winter. All damage from hits contributes to chill magnitude. All damage from all hits. So every skill, every ability you use is going to contribute to that chill magnitude. Again, we see this again over here with shock. All damage from hits will contribute to shock chance. So I don't know if you can take both of these and how that would work out, but that's pretty awesome, because if you wanted to do a full cold or a full shock, you can without having to use only those types of abilities. So you could use a really cool ability and then force it to do these two ailments, which is pretty awesome. Now this one down here is called Constant Gale. This one is a buff and you can actually scale it as well. So Arcane Surge, you're just going to, it sounds like you're just going to always have this buff. It gives you 10% more cast speed and 20% more mana regen. Now there's no damage, right here, but it's just cast speed and mana regen. But you can actually get Force of Will right here that will increase that Arcane Surge buff based off your maximum mana. So by stacking up max mana, you're actually increasing your cast speed and mana regen as well. Lots of synergies here already. Last but not least, over here we have Heart of the Storm. This is going to be 40% of elemental damage taken is recouped as energy shield. So obviously, well, maybe it's not obvious, but I know for me, when I usually build caster builds, I usually do go energy shield. And so that's just going to factor that into even more and help us out with our survival. So that is our Storm Weaver Ascendancy. Let's go ahead and talk about the Chronomancer Ascendancy. The Chronomancer is the one that can like pause time and stuff. And I think I left this one out of my top 5 Ascendancy video, but let's go ahead and look at it and maybe I can be swayed. Again, same setup here. We're not really going to figure out like how far we got to go in. We're just going to look at the nodes and see what sounds really cool. I think that Stormweaver, I really liked the surge buff was probably the highlight for me over there. But over here on the Chronomancer, we have Now and Again. Skills have, and this is my first time actually reading the Chronomancer, so bear with me here. Skills have a 33% chance to not consume a cooldown, when that is actually insane. Cooldown is usually a barrier in most of these action RPG games, and so having a chance to be able to use the skill multiple times, especially if it's a long cooldown, that could be really good. We have Unbound, and remember, I know I said this again for the Stormweaver, but same thing applies to this Ascendancy. It's all going to change when we actually get our hands on the game and we start experimenting with different skills and stuff like that. The next one here is Unbound Encore. You get a skill called Time Snap. Okay, we knew about this one. Manipulates time, resets the cooldowns of your other skills. So this one's going to be really nice for the cooldown stuff in there. I'm already thinking of some crazy... Dude, this could be really fun. This could be really spammy and fun. Ultimate Command gets a skill Time Freeze. Release a large wave that stops time for all affected enemies for a certain duration. The duration is lower the more times the enemy has had stopped for them. So if you have an enemy that has more health, it's taking you longer to kill, it won't be as effective on multiple uses. I think that's fair. But basically the way I'm thinking this would work for me is you go into a pack, you time freeze, do your stuff, time snap, reset your cooldowns. Hopefully things are proccing so that you're getting that cooldown for free and you can keep spamming. This could be a really spammy and fun build. I think I've said that now already. Footprints in the Sand. You get the skill Temporal Rift. Passively leaves after images of your recent past. Cast the spell to return to the oldest after image, teleporting to that location, resetting your life, mana, and energy shield to the values they were at the time. This, if you played last Epoch, if you played the Void Knight, they have a skill that's very, very, very similar to this. And I loved it on last Epoch. It was really fun to play around with, just not only for the resetting your cooldowns, but also that life, man, everything like that. This could be really fun, actually. Maybe I will be going Chronomancer. I don't know. We'll see. Next up, we have Quicksand Hourglass. Every 12 seconds, you gain 50% more cast speed for 4 seconds. It's pretty cool. So 8 seconds of downtime. Sounds pretty awesome. Next, we have Apex of the Moment. Enemies in your presence are slowed by 20%. So this could be if we have anything where we do anything to like crowd controlled monsters or something like that. Maybe that would apply here. This class sounds really fun. Circular Heartbeat. 30% of damage taken is recouped as life. Okay, so instead of energy shield, they're going more life here then. Be interesting to dig into the defenses here, because I would think with Chronomancer being a sorceress like base class would be, I would think it would be another energy shield type of situation. But and you don't have to go this. Remember, these are not, I don't even think you can get all of these. I don't know how many points you're going to get, but you kind of will pick them out and stuff as you go. So maybe that would be one I would skip probably if we're doing an energy shield setup. Last but not least, we have the Rapid River. Recoup effects instead occur over 4 seconds. So isn't this the only recoup effect? Maybe there's other ones that we can get elsewhere from other skills and stuff. And maybe that's where this would come into play. I don't know. Looking at this, I'd probably skip out on these two. I'd probably go with definitely all the time freezing, rifts, and time snap stuff. Definitely the cooldown reduction. The cast speed would be nice, but the 8 seconds of downtime is kind of meh, and the slow is meh. So at least these first 4 for sure I'd go if I went Chronomancer. So those are going to be your 2 Ascendancy classes that are available at the start of Early Access. And remember, when the game does actually launch out of Early Access, it will be free to play, and there's also going to be a 3rd Ascendancy class for the Sorceress. This is just what's available in the Early Access version of the game and my very early ideas and things that I think about the Sorceress with the Stormweaver and Chronomancer Ascendancies. And that's going to wrap it up for this Path of Exile 2 Sorceress Ascendancy preview video. Hopefully you found this video useful and or entertaining. If so, don't forget that like button and subscribe to the channel if you think I've earned it. Please consider becoming a YouTube channel member today. Unlock some pretty fun perks such as behind the scenes, bloopers I find while editing, and early access to videos when I release a giant batch. It also helps out the family a lot. But don't forget, your view alone means the absolute world. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.